Welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're tackling a topic that I think is pretty relevant to a lot of us.
Yeah.
And I know it's definitely something I've thought about a lot. We're diving into Ryan Holiday's book, Ego is the Enemy.
Oh, yeah.
Which explores this tricky inner voice we all deal with.
Yeah.
Our ego.
That's a good one.
So by the end of this deep dive, hopefully you'll have a better understanding of how to recognize when your ego is kind of running the show.
For sure. For sure.
And have some practical strategies for keeping it in check.
Right.
Whether you're just starting out or you're already on your way.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a book that really makes you think about, how much our own perception can sometimes hold us back.
Exactly. So when we say ego, what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about being arrogant, right?
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
Holiday goes beyond just that,
Yeah.
simple definition.
Yeah.
He talks about ego as this kind of inflated sense of self-importance, the kind that distorts reality and can trip us up in some surprising ways.
Okay.
Think of it as that voice that whispers, I know better, even when
Oh, yeah.
maybe we don't.
Oh, I know that voice. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that distorted reality you were talking about,
Right.
what makes it so dangerous? I mean, I get that a little bit of self-belief is good.
Yeah.
But when does it cross the line?
Well, look at the example of General George McClellan during the Civil War.
Okay.
Brilliant on paper, but his ego blinded him to reality.
Oh, wow.
Underestimated his opponents, overestimated his own abilities, led to some pretty devastating losses for the Union.
So his ego was basically his downfall.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a contributing factor.
Wow.
I think it's a reminder that even the smartest people can fall prey to that.
Yeah, that's true.
To that trap.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's one of the reasons Holiday emphasizes the importance of a student mindset.
Okay.
And maybe especially when you're already talented. It's about staying open to learning and growth.
Okay.
No matter where you are in your journey.
Makes me think of William Tecumseh Sherman. Another Civil War figure, but very different story.
Right.
He was also a brilliant military strategist.
Yeah.
But he never stopped learning. Constantly seeking mentors, asking for feedback.
Right.
Always pushing himself to improve.
Exactly. Sherman really embodies that idea of continuous learning. And what's fascinating is that it's not just about formal education.
Yeah.
It's about actively seeking out people who can teach you something.
Right.
Even when it means acknowledging that you don't know everything.
It's like that saying, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly.
It could be humbling, but also incredibly freeing, don't you think?
Absolutely. It takes the pressure off of needing to have all the answers.
Right.
And opens us up to new possibilities.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging that we all have blind spots and that there's always room for growth.
That reminds me of Kirk Hammett from Metallica.
Oh, yeah.
Even after achieving what many would consider the pinnacle of success as a guitar player.
Right.
Joining Metallica, he continued to take lessons.
Wow.
It's a good reminder that there's always another level to strive for.
Right.
Even when you think you've made it.
Such a powerful example. And it challenges that idea that learning is something you only do up to a certain point.
Right.
We can and should be students throughout our lives.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about the dangers of ego and aspiration.
Right.
And the importance of maintaining that student mindset. But what about when success actually comes knocking?
Yeah.
How does ego manifest then?
That's where it can get really tricky.
Yeah.
Holiday uses the cautionary tale of Howard Hughes to illustrate this point.
Yeah.
Hughes was this incredibly talented inventor, pilot, and filmmaker.
Wow.
But his early success ended up overshadowed by his unchecked ego.
Really?
Became reckless and isolated, ultimately sabotaging his own brilliance.
It's a reminder that success can be just as dangerous as failure if we let it inflate our ego.
Absolutely.
But Holiday contrasts Hughes's story with someone like Genghis Khan, right?
Right.
Which seems surprising at first.
You wouldn't necessarily think of Genghis Khan as a model for humility.
Right.
But Holiday highlights a fascinating aspect of his leadership.
Okay.
Khan, despite his power, was surprisingly open to learning from the cultures he conquered.
Wow.
He integrated their knowledge and even technology into his own empire.
So even the most powerful conqueror in history saw the value in seeking out different perspectives. Yeah.
Ignored crucial information and ultimately led his forces to defeat.
Yeah.
It really highlights the importance of staying open to new ideas even when you're at the top of your game.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many opportunities we miss
Right.
because we think we already have all the answers.
For sure.
I know I've been guilty of that myself.
I think we all have at some point. It's a human tendency, but recognizing that is the first step to overcoming it.
Yeah, okay, so we've seen how ego can affect us in aspiration and in success.
Yeah.
But what about when we face setbacks?
Right.
Because let's be honest, everyone stumbles at some point, right?
Absolutely. And that's where ego can really rear its ugly head.
Oh, yeah.
Leading to self-pity blame.
Yeah.
And a refusal to learn from our mistakes.
So how do we navigate those tough times without letting our ego get the best of us? How do we turn those stumbles into opportunities for growth?
Well, Holiday uses the incredible story of Malcolm X
Okay.
to illustrate how failure can actually become a springboard for personal transformation.
Yeah, Malcolm X's story is so powerful.
It really is.
He used his time in prison to educate himself, turning a period of confinement into an opportunity for incredible growth.
Exactly. And it's a concept that Robert Greene talks about, transforming dead time into alive time.
Yeah.
It's about choosing to see setbacks not as defeats,
Yeah.
but as chances to learn, reflect, and come back stronger.
So even in failure, there's an opportunity to choose growth over ego.
Absolutely. It's about reframing our perspective and choosing to see those challenging moments as stepping stones on our path to becoming better versions of ourselves, you know?
Yeah. It's like that quote, every master was once a disaster. We all have to go through those messy learning phases to really master anything.
Exactly. It's a process, not an end point.
Yeah.
And speaking of process, Holiday makes it clear that managing ego isn't a one-time fix.
Right.
It's an ongoing effort, something we have to be mindful of constantly.
So how do we actually do that?
Right.
It's one thing to talk about taming the ego, but are there specific things we can do?
Yeah.
It feels like once you're aware of it, it's almost like a game you can't stop playing.
It's true that awareness can be both a blessing and a curse.
Right.
But Holiday does offer some really practical tools in the book.
Right.
One of the most important is self-awareness, which we've touched on already. It's about regularly checking in with ourselves and asking, why am I doing this? Is this about the work, or is my ego calling the shots?
It's like taking a step back and noticing those subtle motivations. Are we seeking genuine contribution?
Yeah.
Or are we more concerned with how we look or what people will think?
Exactly. And that's where that student mindset comes in again.
Yeah.
No matter how much we achieve, there's always more to learn.
Right.
Seek out mentors, ask for feedback, and be open to different perspectives.
Okay.
It keeps us grounded.
Because even when we reach the top of our field, there's always room for improvement.
For sure.
And I think that ties into Holiday's emphasis on focusing on the work itself.
Yes.
Rather than getting caught up in the hype or external validation.
Absolutely. When we shift our attention to the process of creating and improving,
Yeah.
the ego tends to quiet down.
Okay.
It's about finding satisfaction in the work itself,
Right.
not just chasing the end result or the accolades that come with it.
That makes me think about a time when I was so focused on getting a project published that I lost sight of why I was passionate about the work in the first place. It wasn't until I shifted my focus back to the creative process that I started to feel that joy again.
It's so easy to get caught up in the outcome,
Yeah.
but the real magic often happens in those moments of focused effort and creation.
Okay, so we've talked about self-awareness, maintaining a student mindset, and focusing on the work.
Right.
What other strategies does Holiday offer for keeping our egos in check?
Well, he also talks about the importance of stillness and reflection.
Okay.
It's about creating space to disconnect from the constant noise of the world and reconnect with ourselves.
It's like taking a break from all the doing and just allowing ourselves to be, whether it's meditation, spending time in nature, or just finding a quiet moment to reflect. I think those moments of stillness are essential for keeping ego in check.
I agree. It's about creating space for self-awareness to flourish. And when we're grounded in that awareness, it's easier to recognize when our ego is leading us astray.
And speaking of guidance, Holiday also emphasizes the importance of mentorship and seeking feedback.
Right. Oh, for sure.
We can't always see our own blind spots.
Yeah.
So having trusted advisors is crucial.
Absolutely. It can be humbling to ask for help,
Yeah.
especially when we're feeling successful or confident.
Right.
But that's often when we need it most. A mentor can offer a fresh perspective and help us see things we might otherwise miss.
It's like having that outside voice to challenge our assumptions and help us stay on track.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not even about getting specific advice, but just having someone to talk to who understands the challenges we're facing and can offer support and encouragement.
It's like having a sounding board, someone who can help us process our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Right.
Yeah.
And on that note, Holiday also talks about the importance of remembering where we came from. It's about staying connected to our roots, the people and experiences that shaped us.
It's a way of staying grounded, of not letting success go to our heads.
For sure.
Because at the end of the day, we're all just human beings trying to figure things out as we go.
It's a powerful reminder of our shared humanity.
Yeah.
And I think it's especially important in today's world where it's so easy to get caught up in comparison and competition.
Speaking of which, Holiday suggests finding ways to serve others as a way to combat ego, right?
Yes.
When we focus on contributing to something larger than ourselves,
Right.
it naturally shifts our perspective away from self-centered pursuits.
Exactly. It's about asking, how can I make a positive impact?
Yeah.
Instead of constantly focusing on personal gain or recognition.
It's about shifting from a me mindset to a we mindset.
I love that.
And I think that's a powerful antidote to ego.
It is. It allows us to tap into something bigger than ourselves, which can be incredibly fulfilling and meaningful.
So we've talked about a lot of strategies for taming the ego, stillness, mentorship, serving others. But it's not about eradicating ego altogether, is it?
Right.
Because as you said earlier, ego is a part of who we are.
That's right. It's about understanding that ego isn't inherently bad.
Okay.
In fact, it can be a powerful motivator.
Yeah.
The key is to harness that energy and direct it towards something positive.
So it's about channeling ego, not eliminating it.
Exactly. Think about someone who's driven to achieve great things in their field.
Yeah.
That drive might be fueled by ego,
Right.
but it can also lead to incredible innovation and progress.
Right.
The key is to ensure that ego is aligned with a sense of purpose that transcends personal ambition.
It's about finding that sweet spot where ego can be a force for good rather than a source of self-sabotage.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that ego can be a powerful tool, but like any tool, it needs to be used skillfully and with intention.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into ego, is the enemy. What's the one key takeaway you hope our listener will carry with them? What's the essence of what we've been exploring?
I think it's this. Ego is a constant companion, but it doesn't have to control us. By embracing humility, continuous learning, and a focus on the work itself, we can navigate the challenges of aspiration, success, and even failure with greater resilience and effectiveness.
It's about recognizing that the battle with ego is a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
But it's a journey worth taking.
It is.
And ultimately, it's about choosing to be the heroes of our own stories, using our strengths and ambitions to make a positive impact on the world. It really is a journey, isn't it? And like any worthwhile journey, there are going to be bumps along the way.
Right.
I think the key is to not get discouraged by those setbacks, but to see them as opportunities for learning and growth.
I agree with that. And to remember that, we don't have to have all the answers.
Right.
It's okay to ask for help,
Yeah.
to seek out guidance from mentors, and to be open to different perspectives.
Thinking back on all the examples we've discussed, McClellan, Sherman Hughes, Kahn, Malcolm X, it strikes me that ego can manifest in so many different ways.
It really can.
It's not always about being arrogant or boastful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more subtle, like a quiet resistance to feedback or a fear of looking foolish.
That's such a good point. It's those subtle forms of ego that can be the most insidious.
Right.
Because they often operate below our conscious awareness.
So what can we do to bring those unconscious patterns to light?
Yeah.
How do we start to recognize those subtle ways in which ego might be holding us back?
I think it starts with cultivating a sense of curiosity about ourselves.
Okay.
Instead of judging our thoughts and feelings,
Yeah.
we can simply observe them with a sense of non-judgmental awareness.
Okay.
Like, look at that. There's my ego popping up again.
It's like becoming a curious observer of our own inner world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that space of observation, we can start to ask ourselves some powerful questions.
Okay.
Why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
What is this thought or feeling trying to tell me? What is the most helpful way to respond in this situation?
It's about creating a dialogue with ourselves.
Yeah.
Rather than just reacting on autopilot.
Exactly. And in that dialogue, we can start to disentangle our true selves
Okay.
from the stories our egos are telling us. Because often those stories are based on fear insecurity,
Yeah.
or a need for validation.
And when we can see through those stories,
Yeah,
we can start to make choices that are more aligned with our values and aspirations.
absolutely.
We can choose courage over fear, humility over arrogance, and collaboration over competition.
It's about remembering that our worthiness is not dependent on external validation.
Okay.
We are inherently valuable simply by virtue of being human.
That's a beautiful message.
It is.
And I think it's a powerful antidote to the ego's constant need for approval and recognition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It allows us to approach life with a sense of freedom and authenticity.
Right.
We no longer need to prove ourselves to others because we know our worth from within.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Ego's the Enemy, what's the one piece of advice you'd offer to our listener who's on their own journey of taming their ego?
Right.
What's the most important thing to remember?
I think it's to be patient and compassionate with yourself.
Okay.
Taming the ego is not a quick fix.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong process full of twists and turns.
Right.
There will be times when you stumble, when you fall back into old patterns,
Yeah,
when you let your ego get the best of you.
for sure.
And that's okay.
It's all part of the journey.
Exactly. The key is to not get discouraged, to pick yourself, dust yourself off and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
To remember that every moment is an opportunity to start anew,
Right.
to make a different choice, to step more fully into your true self.
And to remember that you're not alone on this journey.
Yeah.
We all have egos.
Right.
We all struggle with those inner voices of self-doubt and insecurity.
We do.
But by sharing our stories, supporting each other, and learning from each other's experiences, we can navigate those challenges with greater ease and grace.
That's so beautifully said. And I think it perfectly captures the spirit of this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving some kind of egoless perfection.
Right.
It's about embracing the messy, imperfect, and ultimately deeply human journey of growth and transformation.
Well said. So to our listener out there, we hope this deep dive has given you some insights and tools to help you on your own journey of taming the ego.
Yeah.
And remember, it's a journey worth taking. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to become the best version of yourself.
And thank you for joining us on this exploration. Until next time.
Until next time.